Companies have quadrupled down on getting their ESG scores up and focusing on pumping DEI into their products because they think it's going to make them a boatload of money when really it hasn't. And now a report is coming out that Microsoft has axed an entire DEI team, claiming DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical. I have a few things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, this is something that I think all of us could have said several years ago, that DEI teams do not equate to more money, but companies continued pumping funds into these teams, hiring as many people as possible, and ultimately hiring individuals like ethics teams to alter their content when it comes to entertainment companies. But now we have the mega company Microsoft admitting that this isn't the direction they want to go in anymore. It says a new report claims that Microsoft has eliminated an entire diversity, equity, and inclusion team, with a manager claiming DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or as smart as they were in 2020. They were not smart in 2020. Whatever a diversity and equity team does is really just what falls under the purview of an HR team, unless, of course, we're talking about entertainment, and then you have individuals who are kind of sifting through the content that is being released, and they are altering it and trying to, of course, go down a checklist, and they are, pumping more DEI into, games, movies, TV shows, etc. But when it comes to large companies, typically they're just extensions of HR teams that should not have existed in the first place. It says this new report comes from Business Insider's Ashley Stewart, who writes, after Microsoft laid off an entire internal team focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, a team leader blasted the company for a lack of investment in these efforts. Yeah, because they realize, oh, hey, this is just losing us a lot of money and also respect in the eyes of customers. As soon as people hear DEI now, they instantly question what a company is actually hoping to gain out of a situation, because again, we are talking about teams that really shouldn't exist. It says the email from the manager stated in part, true systems change work associated with DEI programs everywhere and are no longer business critical or as smart as they were in 2020. I've never seen these as being business critical or smart. I think most people have seen that that is not the case, and ultimately, yes, they are just losing companies boatloads of money. Now, of course, they despite the team being scrapped, Microsoft spokesman Jeff Jones did commit the company to diversity and inclusion moving forward, saying our D&I commitments remain unchanged. They remove the E as if that's going to, confuse people enough to think that it's completely different when it's not. They just remove the E. It says our focus on diversity and inclusion is unwavering, and we are holding firm on our expectations, prioritizing accountability, and continuing to focus on this work. Now, of course, Microsoft is a company that is extremely woke, right? They are a company committed to DEI. They are a company committed to what they think is the cause, because they are under the false belief that this is going to gain them a lot of funds going forward and a lot of respect, when really that's not the case. I mean, this commitment was made very evident when the company rolled out its Gaming for Everyone product inclusion framework earlier this year. I did talk about this in another video, but it includes 10 product inclusion actions. One of those actions is titled Help Customers Feel Seen. Underneath this action, Microsoft lists a number of questions game developers should be considering when they're developing their games, such as, are you unnecessarily introducing gender and gender barriers into your code or design? Are you creating playable female characters that are equal in skill and ability to their male peers? Are your female characters equipped with clothing and armor that fits their task, aka does she, seem realistic? It's like when Phoebe Waller-Bridge has talked about the Tomb Raider show she's doing. Oh, well, we're not sure if we're gonna go for a big-chested Lara because she has to squeeze into tight little crevices, so that would be unrealistic to have a big-breasted woman doing the job. I mean, nobody cares. When it comes to video games, movies, TV shows, we do not want, at the end of the day, a super realistic product. I don't want to see Superman and see a slightly overweight guy with a dad bod. That's not what I think of when I think of Superman. When I think of Lara Croft, I think of a brunetted, big-breasted woman, and that's okay, and it is perfectly fine. If there are developers who, yes, want to create something as ridiculous as Concord, where every character has pronouns, has ridiculous designs. I mean, they're basically just the DEI, Timu Guardians of the Galaxy. They're allowed to create products like that, just like we are allowed to criticize them. But these are the frameworks that Microsoft is, yes, pushing onto developers. And we have seen time and time again in the gaming industry, DEI not work out for companies. Of course, we have the more recently released Tales of Kenzara Zhao, and most of these have to do with Sweet Baby Inc. because Sweet Baby is such a cancer within the industry. But they came out with this game, they were promoting it with Sweet Baby, diversity, inclusion, and then we found out only recently at the beginning of July that the developer Surgeon Studios was hit with layoffs. Just over a dozen employees were affected, Surgeon said, and as far as we knew, they only had roughly 40 employees, so that is a big chunk of their numbers. That game ended up being a massive financial and critical failure for them. It did not do nearly what they were hoping. And more recently, of course, we have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is a rumor that I actually had released. I had some sources reach out to me, but the word on the street is that Warner Brothers Discovery was actually discussing shuttering Rocksteady after the Sweet Baby Inc. influenced Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League disaster. And there's also, of course, another part of this that maybe they will not completely shut it down, but they are at least going to go through heavy layoffs, which is, yes, a trend within the industry. But if we look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, the Rocksteady that exists today is a shell of the company that they once were, and it's filled to the brim with activists who are not creating content that people actually want. They had an opportunity to continue the Arkhamverse in a way that felt cohesive and also enhance the story of the other 4 games, and they came up with the worst pieces of content possible with a lesbian, gender swapped Mrs. Freeze, Victoria. We, of course, had the very, very cringe-worthy Joker. We don't know exactly who the future DLC characters are going to be besides Deathstroke, and there is a rumor that Batman may return, but the base game itself was terrible. It was all, this, female empowerment message with Harley. We, of course, had other members of the Suicide Squad completely disrespecting the Justice League, and, of course, the awful storyline they went with, specifically with Harley and Batman, where, spoiler alert, Harley kills Batman. Allegedly, the Batman that we played as in the other Arkhamverse games, even though, again, it is a rumor that it wasn't quite him. But regardless, we are seeing failure after failure that pertains to companies like Rocksteady and Sweet Baby Inc. that are extremely focused on the DEI cause. And of course, when it comes to giant companies, Microsoft is one. Of course, right now, Microsoft is the largest company in the world, and it's constantly shifting positions with Apple and Nvidia, but right now it is Microsoft, and clearly they want DEI, but because it's losing them money, they don't actually want to pay for the DEI consultant teams, so they've scaled back. But are they actually stepping away from DEI? I don't know, probably not. Only time will tell, though, because it still looks as though they're using the initiatives that they had created through these teams and are going to continue for the time being to push them on their developers. So, of course, I will be keeping my eye on this, but for now, that's all that that I really had to discuss in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.